away. George and Kimi, thank you. Talk to us about how you're going to be modernizing, again, heritage, legacy. I will say one thing, one of my favorite things, so George, keep this in the back of your head. You didn't come this far to only come this far.
You got it.
Okay.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Stand on. There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. George, how are you?
Hey, Kimmy, I'm great. How are you?
Good. So we get the pleasure of having the bookend, the ending panel before happy hour. So we'll try to keep it lively and interesting for you. I think it's going to be a great panel or a great fireside chat. So yeah, we're talking about modernizing heritage brands for today's consumer. But before we start, I am going to throw out a couple of icebreakers for you. Let's keep it sort of on theme. So while we're talking about heritage brands, tell me what your favorite commercial jingle was from when you were a child.
Okay. It's a good question. A lot of jingles out there. I think my favorite was probably the Toys R Us jingle. I was a big Toys R Us fan. I could like map it out by aisle, tell you where the video games were, the whole thing. So, and I could probably still, I'd know all the words. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because I was thinking about the same question, and ironically, that was my answer as well.
Wow. All right, not planned.
Yep,
Great.
there. Yeah, not planned. Awesome. All right. Well, and just talking about Chili's in general, and the question's gone out previously. What is your favorite item on the Chili's menu?
Big fan of the Southwest egg rolls. Can't go wrong with those. Also, chicken crispers. They're dynamite. I would go dip them in Buffalo Ranch. That is my play.
My son is a chronic Chili's eater, and he loves the Cajun chicken pasta.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not maybe your
a
normal.
winner. That's a winner.
That's
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, let's get up close and personal with you. You have an incredible marketing background, and specifically with some heritage brands. Tell us more about your background and how that translates to Chili's.
Yeah, I've worked on several kind of legacy heritage brands. So I started my marketing career at Procter & Gamble, working on the Old Spice brand. So I was lucky to be a part of the team that kind of turned that brand around. Then I moved to Yum Brands. I know there's some folks from Yum here. Got to work on the KFC brand, both in the US and globally, and then also the Pizza Hut brand. Got to work with Christina, who spoke earlier. I took a little bit of a left turn from food, and I worked at Tinder, not a heritage legacy brand, but a fun brand. Then I found my way back to food, and I've been at Chili's now for a year and a half. So it's been great. I would say, just the experience of working on heritage brands is interesting. I find it fun. I think looking back at the brands I worked on, some of the things that are similar that I can bring to my experience at Chili's. All those brands, there's at some point in their history they've been great, and people love those brands. And so, just finding, going back and kind of learning about those brands and understanding what made those brands great, I think, is just a fun challenge, and it's kind of a fun exercise for a marketer.
I love the term Jesse used earlier about going into the attic and dusting off everything that was cool and bringing it back. So yeah, I think that's great. And you have drawn a lot of inspiration from your roots. Where do you start to think about modernizing or revitalizing a brand? And tell us a little bit more about how Chili's has incorporated storytelling and brought back sort of that nostalgia. We've heard that word a lot.
Yeah, so in my experience on the brands, it is kind of what Jesse said, whether you call it the attic, the archives, whatever it is, you're kind of looking to kind of learn about the brand, understand what the brand DNA is all about. On brands that I worked on in the past, like Old Spice, it was all about masculinity, but that takes different shape and form over the years, and masculinity means different things, and so you kind of have to understand a little bit about that. In KFC's case, there was a founder that was the face of the brand, like Colonel Sanders, and so it was really more about understanding him, his story, and what he brought to the brand. Pizza Hut, you heard Christina talk about a lot of those iconic things about the brand and the experience, and that's probably where we needed to lean more. And with Chili's, I'll say we are really fortunate and blessed. Not every brand in our category has a great story there or like a history to lean on, we do. Our founder, Larry Levine, who's still in Dallas, founded Chili's 48 years ago, and there's this great story of him going to the Terra Lingua for a chili cook-off, and like some buddies of his, and like they just cooked up this idea for this place that would just sell really simple food and serve great drinks at a really affordable price. And so when we're trying to figure out what Chili's is all about, we're really lucky that we have that history. And so that's kind of where we started. And so we actually just finished our brand book. So Laura and Nikki on my team were over there, done an amazing job. I know we've referenced long brand books in this session today. Ours is long too, so I'm not going to say it's different. But I will say, I would bet you we have the most fun brand book of any brand in this room right now. So I have a few pages from there. I don't know if we can put up the slides, but just to give you a sense of how our heritage comes to life. So one, when you work at Chili's, you become a chili head. That's what we call each other, and that's the kind of the club that you join, the family you join. And so we wanted to define what a chili head is. And so this type of individual embraces the culture and vibes of Chili's, being loud and proud, making everyone feel special. That's our purpose. They understand that shift happens. That's what our team members call it, when something goes crazy in the middle of shift and you got to get through it. The sizzle of fajitas is sound sent from high above. Diversity, equity, inclusion are integral to our culture. Someone that's always accountable, puts team before self, and remembers to always live the Chili Head life. These pictures are some of the so that top picture is the guy closest in the blue shirt is Doug Brooks. He was the first general manager of a Chili's, the Chili's on Greenville, which was the very first Chili's. He was also later became the CEO of Brinker and ran the company through the most successful period in the company's history. And to this day, he still has an office in our building. And so he's like our resident historian. I mean, the guy brings stuff from his garage. He brings old shirts and pins and buttons and blankets and menus, all these things to show us like what's going on. And they called, these guys called themselves the hamburger hippies. And like they had this vibe to them, which we're trying to recapture. That other picture is our current chief operating officer, who started as a server at Chili's, Doug Cummings. And so you can see, like, even just from this one slide, hopefully you can start to see some of the history that we have as a brand. If you go to the next slide, this is just funny to me. It's what Chili's is not. This is actually printed in the Chili's annual report from 1984. And it's just written in a way, like I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says, Chili's is not a fast food place, although our restaurants have high traffic and quick turnover. Chili's is not a Mexican restaurant, although some of our dishes borrow from the staples and spices of Mexican food. And it goes on and on and on. But it's written in a way that like you would never see a company, especially in 1984, write in their annual report. And so these guys, these hamburger hippies, did not take themselves very seriously, and that has stuck through Chili's, especially when Chili's was at its best. If you go to the next slide, we wanted to celebrate the hamburger hippies, and so we made baseball cards of the actual like original hamburger hippies. And so you can see Larry, Kenny Dennis, Doug Brooks there at the top, Doug and Aaron. Doug, I mentioned, is our current chief operating officer. Aaron White is our chief people officer. Julie Barraza runs our operations for North Texas. Like, these are people that have worked at Chili's. Some of them have passed away, but these are the people that really started this. Norman Brinker's on there, obviously. They started this brand. They started this amazing brand. And for us, like, I don't know, like having worked on, several brands, I think it's awesome to have something like this that you can lean on, especially having Doug Brooks, that we can go back and actually like hear the actual stories of, yeah, we made the recipe for the Presidente in a hotel in Mexico, on the beach, and now it's the #1 selling margarita in the world. So like this stuff, really shapes who we are and how we want to come back. And so it's a big part of how we're kind of trying to put Chili's back on the map. And so it's not that we're going to show any of what I just showed you to consumers, but for us, it's kind of our North Star to figure out what our brand is about and what our voice is about. And so as we think about bringing Chili's back, we want to do that, but really ground ourselves in the history of who we are.
That's amazing. I see some 70s to 80s hairdos in those pictures. That's awesome.
Julie's is really particularly great.
Yes, it looks like my high school picture. So Chili's has done a fantastic job of connecting the past with the future. So, as we're talking about revitalization and things like that, what do you do? Like, how do you modernize a brand like Chili's to stay relevant to a younger audience?
Yeah, great question. So, my opinion is when you're trying to take a brand that, like a legacy brand and make it relevant today, it can't just be about looking backwards. So, the question that I try to ask is when Chili's, or any brand, insert brand name here, was at its best, what were they doing? And what made them so great? And then try and recapture that, understand, all those things you find in the attic that are really unique to your brand, and then how do you bring them back in a really relevant way? So, for us right now, like thankfully, as Jesse and Luz talked about, and several other people today, nostalgia is definitely a thing. And for our core audience, 90s nostalgia in particular is pretty big. And so the nice part is it's not even just like the people of my age, but like it feels like the younger, the younger audience is actually enjoying learning about some of this stuff for the first time, even though it's nostalgic to me. And so, that's where we've really chosen to start our journey. Chili's as a brand was kind of off the scene from an advertising standpoint for several years prior to this past year. And so, we wanted to come back in a big way, and so we've kind of tried to tap into nostalgia. And one way that we did that is through music. And so, you saw what we did with the Baby Back Ribs jingle that Jesse and Luz showed you. But another way we've kind of looked at that before that was this 3 for Me deal that we have. So Madeline talked about it a little bit. Basically, you can get a bottomless drink, bottomless chips and salsa, a nearly half-pound burger, and fries for $10.99. It's an awesome deal. Can't get a better deal in a drive-through. Like, you get full service. It's great. But the problem is it's called 3 for Me, which on the surface doesn't mean anything to anyone. So we were trying to figure out ways to explain what the 3 for Me actually is in a fun way that feels like it's in this kind of voice of Chili's and, it doesn't take ourselves too seriously. And so we found a way, leaning back on nostalgia and going back to a song. If only there were a song in the 90s that counted to the number 3, we could use. And sure enough, we tapped Brian McKnight to help us with this. So I think we have a video that we can roll.
Hi there. Welcome to Chili's. I'm Brian, and I'll be your server.
Are you Brian McKnight?
You think 16-time Grammy-nominated R&B star Brian McKnight is a waiter at Chili's?
Well, your name is Brian.
Well, not him.
You just really look like
Not him.
I'm sorry.
Have you dined here before? Do you know how the 3 for Me meal works?
No, actually.
It's undeniable that certain foods belong together. It's unbelievable how good a drink goes with an app and an entree. 1, you gotta choose your drink. 2, not give an app a think. 3, girl, it's time to see what you want your main course to be.
Coke, chips and salsa, and chicken crispers.
4, repeat steps 1 through 3.
Coke Zero, chip and salsa, and Old Timer with cheese.
5, call that the 3 for me. If ever you get hungry once you're done, then you start back at 1. Yeah.
Oh my God, I knew it. You're Brian McKnight.
My name's Brian Moore.
You just signed an autograph. It's a work form.
Come on, man.
It's my sister. Yeah.
I love how in both the commercials that you've shown too, is an element of a kind of poking fun at yourself, like you said, and keeping it light and tying back to the nostalgia, which really makes it fun. So.
Yeah. We say we don't take ourselves too seriously. We take our food seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah. So how do you choose your artists?
It's a good question. In this case, there aren't a huge list of songs that count so deliberately and work so well to describe a bundled meal like that. So that made that one easy. You do have to find out, like, as you talk to them, like, we have great partners at Coca-Cola that really worked with us on that, and the more we talked with them, he knows the brand, was excited about it. In the case Jesse talked a little bit about, in the case of Boys to Men, that was an interesting one where they kind of approached us in a way to say, hey, we've got this connection with your brand, we're interested, would you guys be interested? And so in that case, again, you want to obviously make sure that there's some connection. They clearly had one. But then, the other piece I think is you need great creative partners as well. So like both of those ideas, I think I think were executed really well, but they could have also very easily been executed not so well. And so thankfully we have a great team. Jesse leads our advertising team, but we have great creative partners as well. So we worked with Mischief on both of those, and so having great creative partners that can take the nugget of an idea and make it something bigger is great. So I think we're always, as said earlier today, I think you're always looking for brand fit, connection when you're partnering with any sort of artist or celebrity.
So the question on my mind, and maybe on many of your minds, is will you ever work with the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Oh, well, that's a really good question, Kimi. I don't know. I guess I can't say yes or no. If anyone has a connection to Flea or something, let me know. But you never know. You never know. Yeah.
We will wait. I can't even talk. We will wait anxiously to hear for that. Awesome. Well, so we've seen a lot of great stories today about heritage brands that have done it well. What other brands have done it well? I mean, we've talked about 7-Eleven and Pizza Hut and things like that. But what other brands do you think do it well?
Yeah, I will say the 7-Eleven work today was amazing. I knew some of it and not seen all of it. Also, just looking outside at like some of the heritage stuff on the walls from 7-Eleven is so cool. So I'm very interested to see what that team continues to do. Another brand, I would say, kind of a heritage legacy brand that I think is doing really well, personally, is Lego. Lego's a brand I grew up with, but I feel like when I grew up with them, they were positioned very differently. And now as a parent, the way that they've taken that brand and made it all about creativity, imagination, learning, but also like I am doing Legos. I'm 43. We did the Home Alone house as a family a couple of Christmases ago, which was amazing. I would recommend that to any family looking for a fun project. I've done the Seinfeld set. They keep tapping into like culture in different ways and finding ways to get more people into the brand and kind of reinvent themselves. Obviously with the movies and like all the things that they've done to kind of take the brand to places that probably no one ever imagined they could. So to me, that's like a brand that over so many years has continued to kind of reinvent themselves.
Yeah, that's a great example. So what trends do you foresee in 24 and beyond? I guess I'll start with our industry and the restaurant industry in general. I think, a lot of things you heard today about what's going on in the macro environment between inflation, recession, student loans, all that stuff, I think is going to continue to be really top of mind. So for us, we are really, focused on how does Chili's deliver abundant, everyday value. And I think the idea, we heard this, we were at a Coca-Cola meeting last week, and it stuck with me. Value, I think a lot of times everyone jumps to value as the lowest price. But I think the idea is it's going to be increasingly important for people to remember that value is what you get for what you pay. And so it doesn't always have to be like the rock bottom prices or the race to the bottom, but it can be how do you deliver amazing value in other ways, right? So that can be the experience, that can be the amount of food, the type of food, any of that. So I think for us, just focusing on how we deliver great experiences to our guests, make our guests feel special, and continue to find ways to drive traffic into our restaurants so they can have those experiences. Great. I know we can open it up for some questions if there are any, but I just wanted to say I really enjoyed today. It's been amazing to hear all the different perspectives and how different all the panels were, even though it was on the same theme. So thank you, Brand Innovators, for hosting, and 7-Eleven and Brinker's Chili's. I thought this was an amazing day. Yeah, so I don't know if we want to open it up to any questions. I know we're between us and happy hour, so we can wrap it up as quickly as you like.
Is it important for your team to keep tabs on your competitors?
Yeah, it's super important. We do it a number of different ways. I think from an advertising standpoint, we use services where we were able to easily just see kind of creative, whether it's TV, online, email, radio, whatever. So we kind of keep tabs on what's going on. I would say our team's really good about going out and actually just going out and eating at our competitors' restaurants, right? And trying the food and understanding what their experience is like, or what their menus look like, or what's going on, inside the restaurants. So for us, I think we're definitely externally focused. We try to be to make sure that we're keeping tabs. Obviously, social listening is another part of that as well, but definitely a priority for us.
Does that impact your strategy much?
I would say our strategy, we like to kind of run our race, and we kind of know where we need to focus. But I think you always have to be aware of what's going on. But I wouldn't say based on what we see, we formulate our strategy from that. We kind of know the things that are going to be important for Chili's to win. All right. Thanks, everybody. And there are some drinks at the Chili's headquarters after this, if people want to swing by as well. We're over on Olympus Boulevard, just around the corner. So.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.